Hey everyone, welcome into today's video. Today we're going to be taking a look at what I consider to be the top 5 upcoming Souls-like games. We've had quite a few developers take a shot at dethroning the Dark Souls franchise, and honestly I think some have come close, but nothing's done it yet. However, these few upcoming games we're about to take a look at, I think are potential contenders. Alright, so the first game we have on today's top 5 Souls-like games is Lies of P. Lies of P, well let me tell you now, is a game that I am really hyped for. Round 8 Studios are the developers tackling this ambitious game. They're known for their game Bless Unleashed, an MMO that I honestly passed on. Either way, I'm keen to see which direction the game goes, and I've been pleasantly surprised with the decisions the developers have been making. Lies of P is a Souls-like action RPG that is set in a gritty pre-industrial hellscape. That hellscape also goes by Krat, a city that prospered greatly from its machines before a mysterious plague brought the city to its knees. You'll be playing as none other than Pinocchio, a puppet mechanoid, from the stories we all read as a kid. Pinocchio is awoken in a train station alone with only a note saying, "Find Mr. Geppetto, he's here in the city." In order to find Mr. Geppetto, you'll need to guide Pinocchio through hordes of enemies, undertake quests and fight bosses. The direction and flow of the game will be greatly determined by how much you lie. There are interconnecting lying quests that will ultimately decide the outcome of the game. With Lies of P having multiple endings, these quests will determine which ending you'll experience on that particular playthrough. There are over 30 types of pure combination weapons, so you'll have a variety of different playstyles to choose from, which is always good for replayability in a Souls-like. You'll be able to customize Pinocchio with costumes and other accessories. The depth of the customization is currently unknown, but what we do know is that as you lie, you become more human, which changes the overall look of Pinocchio. If you're interested to learn more, I'll be doing a deep dive video on Lies of P very soon, so make sure to subscribe to the Gaming Syndicate if you want to get notified when that's live. But for now, you can head on over to Steam and wishlist Lies of P while we wait for a release date. Next on the list is SteelRising. This game is set in Paris, 1789. It tells a story about an alternative French Revolution. You'll be playing as Aegis, an engineering marvel in a world of automatons. This game really shines and stands out when you take into account its stunning graphics. The bleak story the art tells of Paris does an incredible job of setting the scene of the revolution that has been suppressed by King Louis XVI. The combat takes on a unique stance of having all the weapons integrated into the body of Aegis. The combat and the gameplay trailer showed off an offensive playstyle which is pretty reminiscent of Bloodborne, which I personally think is a really good direction. The actual combat itself seemed maybe a little stiff, but with a little more polish it could really stand out in the crowd from all the Souls-like games being created these days. Aegis herself looks really well designed, as did the visual design of the automatons she'll be fighting. Most of the RPG point allocation system seems relatively stock standard with things like power and agility. However, a couple of them stood out, like elemental alchemy and engineering. Not much is known about what these will do, but they could open up the doors for some really cool character builds. The environment that you'll be traversing seems to favour vertical movement with a lot of upward utility like the air dash and grappling. The setting and design of the game give me a really kind of Dishonored vibe, but in a kind of distant way. This is a game that I think is worth keeping an eye on as we edge closer to its release date on September 8, 2022. Alright, next up we have a Souls-like being developed by A44, the creators of Ashen, with a new IP Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. Flintlock only has a cinematic trailer, so unfortunately there isn't any gameplay footage as of yet, but they have set the release date of Flintlock as sometime this year, so I'd assume we'll be seeing more of this game pretty soon. A44 are one of the few developers that managed to shine above the rest of the Souls clones with Ashen. Although their game was heavily inspired by Dark Souls, they really stepped into their own with features like the companion mechanic that allowed the player to have an AI ally that could be controlled by another player at any point. It had its own really cool aesthetic to it, and it was a lot of fun to play. Now with Flintlock's in the works, I'm really excited to see what A44 come up with this time to make their new game stand on its own 2 feet. We get a vague picture of what to expect from Flintlock, but honestly it isn't much to go by at the moment. The Steam page paints a picture of what looks to be a pretty generic storyline. On the Steam page it reads, "The door to the afterlife has been opened, allowing the old god's army of the undead to escape from within. The living are on the brink of extinction. It's time for the coalition army to retake their world, embrace vengeance, gunpowder, and magic, and embark on an epic journey to lead mankind's final siege against the tide of the dead." Again, it seems a little generic, but it could have some twists that mix up the undead enemy theme. Out of all this though, I'm actually most interested in Enki. This strange little magical creature looks like a force to be reckoned with in the trailer. It looks to be imbued with some pretty potent magical abilities that I think are going to be pretty fun to mess around with. If Flintlock can give us the same level of combat and PvP that they delivered in Ashen inside of an open world environment, I think that this could be a wishlist worthy game. Thymesia is a dark and gritty game that has you in control of a mysterious character, codenamed Corvus. You'll be fighting your way through Corvus's foggy memories, utilising the power of disease that you'll be getting from bosses you defeat along the way. Doing away with the traditional Souls-like trope of the infamous stamina bar, you'll be instead limited to combo strings and animation cooldowns. I personally don't know how I feel about this, as I'm pretty accustomed to the stamina system. However, it is kind of cool that the developers, Overwater Studio, have decided to experiment with different styles of gameplay for this genre. Corvus's memories tell the tale of a kingdom that has fallen to the calamity due to the misuse of alchemy. Not an overly unique story, but one that does open up the doors for some decent plot points. The combat is very fast paced, having you dash in, get a few hits in, and then dash out before you get clobbered by your enemy. You'll be able to spend talent points at beacons to customize your fighting style with Corvus. These talent points can be reallocated at any beacon, allowing you to change it up depending on the enemies you'll be facing in that particular area. Thymesia looks to bring some new mechanics to the Souls-like genre, and for that, I think it'll be worth a play. The last game we have on our top 5 Souls-like is a game called Project M, a game being developed by a Korean studio, Hound 13. Very little is actually known about Project M, and the only information that we really have is that it looks to be a Souls-like action RPG that is coming to consoles and PC. On the Hound 13 website, it gives a small piece of information stating, Project M aims for stylish action gameplay based on next-generation AAA quality real-tone renderings and realism. Experience the overwhelming natural environments and delicate civilizations realized through deep world building, realistic emotional acting, with cinematic frame compositions based on narrative. Aside from that, what we see in the trailer is a character fighting a pretty impressive looking boss. To me, I get a cross comparison between Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings. It has what looks to be a very fast combat system, which makes me question if this game is more of a hack and slash game as opposed to a Souls-like. But the dodge rolling and parrying mixed in with the punishing few deaths we see makes me think this game is going to be very hard, which I mean by definition is really what a Souls-like game is, something that is painstakingly punishing toward even the smallest mistake. The graphics look spectacular, and I said this before, but the boss looks incredibly well designed, at least aesthetically. We don't get a full grasp on its proper mechanics except that it swings its weapon around like an ogre chasing Harry Potter down the hallway. For me, this is definitely a game that I'm going to be watching out for as we get more information from Hound 13. So that wraps up what I think of the top 5 upcoming Souls-like games to date. If you think there should be another game in here, make sure to let me know in the comments. If you want to stay up to date on the best games, both released and upcoming, click that subscribe button and leave a like on the video if you want to see more from the Gaming Syndicate. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.